The Earth stands as a testament to survival, aged over 4.5 billion years. Its history carved by relentless forces of destruction. Asteroid collisions have scarred its surface repeatedly. Comet impacts have shattered continental landscapes. Solar flares have stripped away portions of the atmosphere. Mass extinctions have wiped clean entire ecosystems. Supernova explosions from distant stars have bombarded the planet with radiation. Cosmic rays have penetrated deep into the biosphere, altering the very fabric of life itself. Asterisk, the existence of life on this planet defies probability. Every calculation suggests that the conditions necessary for biological complexity should never have aligned. Yet here stands Earth, teeming with millions of species, each one a product of catastrophic events that should have sterilized the planet entirely. The violence that shaped this world was not merely survived, but became the catalyst for life's emergence and diversification. Asterisk, traditional perspectives frame disasters as purely destructive phenomena, events to be feared and avoided. This framework fails to account for the creative potential inherent in chaos. When established systems collapse, when order dissolves into randomness, new configurations become possible. Destruction clears space for innovation. The annihilation of one era creates the foundation for the next. Asterisk, Earth has maintained a precarious equilibrium between complete annihilation and stagnant stability. Too much violence would have shattered the planet beyond recovery. Too little would have left it a lifeless rock, chemically inert and biologically barren. The balance achieved represents an extraordinary convergence of circumstances, a series of fortunate catastrophes that transformed a molten sphere into a cradle of life. Asterisk, the distinction between beneficial and detrimental disasters lies in precise parameters of timing, magnitude, and context. A collision that would obliterate all life at one stage of planetary development might deliver essential materials at another. An extinction event that devastates established ecosystems creates opportunities for new forms to emerge. Radiation that damages DNA in lethal doses can drive beneficial mutations at lower intensities. Asterisk, scientific investigation into Earth's deep interior revealed anomalies that challenged existing models of planetary structure, 1,800 miles below the surface, where the solid inner core transitions to the liquid outer core. Seismic data indicated the presence of massive, dense regions. These structures, extending 600 miles in height and spanning thousands of miles across, appeared to embrace the planet's core like cupped hands supporting a sphere. Asterisk, one of these formations measures half the size of the Australian continent. Their existence contradicts standard models of planetary differentiation, where materials should sort themselves into neat, concentric layers based on density. Something disrupted this process, leaving behind geological anomalies that persisted for billions of years. Asterisk, direct sampling of materials from such depths should be impossible with current technology. Drilling equipment can penetrate only a few miles into the crust before heat and pressure become insurmountable. Yet nature provides alternative access through volcanic activity. Mantle plumes, columns of superheated rock rising from deep within the Earth, occasionally dredge up fragments from these mysterious formations. Asterisk, volcanic eruptions in Iceland and Samoa have produced lava samples containing mineral signatures that trace back to the deep mantle structures. Chemical analysis of these samples revealed ages of 4.5 billion years, contemporaneous with the formation of Earth itself. These ancient rocks preserve information about the planet's earliest configuration, offering glimpses into conditions that existed when the solar system was young and violent. Asterisk, the age correspondence provides crucial evidence for the origin of these massive formations. They date to an era when planetary collisions were common, when the solar system resembled a cosmic demolition derby more than the ordered system observed today. 4.5 billion years ago, Earth shared its orbital neighborhood with numerous planetary embryos, each one growing through accretion of smaller bodies. Asterisk, among these protoplanets orbited an object that scientists have designated Theia, named after the mother of the moon goddess in Greek mythology. They followed an orbital path that would eventually intersect with Earth's. The physics of celestial mechanics made collision inevitable. Two worlds on convergent trajectories, neither possessing the gravitational dominance to perturb the other's orbit sufficiently. Asterisk, the impact between Theia and Earth represented one of the most energetic events in the inner solar system's history. Theia, estimated at roughly Mars-sized, struck the young Earth at an oblique angle. The collision released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons detonating simultaneously. Surface temperatures soared to thousands of degrees. Rock vaporized. The planetary crust liquefied completely. Asterisk, both worlds effectively ceased to exist in their prior forms. The collision shattered planetary structures, mixing mantles and cores, creating a debris field that extended beyond Earth's Roche limit. Material from both bodies scattered into orbit, with the largest fragments eventually coalescing to form the Moon. The violence of this event exceeds human comprehension, operating on scales where geological processes become indistinguishable from explosive phenomena. Asterisk, substantial portions of Theia remained coherent enough during the collision to sink into the reforming Earth rather than being ejected into space or vaporized. These fragments, denser than the surrounding material, descended through the convecting mantle over millions of years. Eventually they settled at the core mantle boundary, too heavy to be fully integrated into the mantle, yet unable to merge completely with the core. Asterisk, these remnants of they now rest in the deepest reaches of Earth's interior. Having remained relatively undisturbed for over 4 billion years, their presence influences mantle convection patterns, potentially driving the volcanic hotspots that allow their occasional sampling. The geological evidence suggests that a significant fraction of Earth's current mass originated from another world entirely. Asterisk, the collision transformed Earth in ways that proved essential for habitability. Thea's iron-rich core merged with Earth's own metallic center, substantially increasing the total mass of iron and nickel in the planetary core. This augmentation had profound consequences for Earth's magnetic field, the invisible shield that protects the surface from solar radiation. Asterisk, Earth's magnetic field originates from movements in the liquid outer core. Molten iron and nickel, electrically conductive and in constant motion due to convection, generate electric currents. These currents produce magnetic fields, which in turn influence the flow of conducting material, creating a self-sustaining The strength and longevity of this magnetic field depend critically on the core's size and composition. Asterisk, the additional iron from the enlarged Earth's outer core substantially. A larger core volume means slower cooling, as the ratio of volume to surface area increases. Slower cooling means the outer core remains molten for longer periods, potentially billions of years longer than would otherwise be possible. This extended operational lifetime for the geodynamo has protected Earth's atmosphere throughout the development of life. Asterisk, the sun constantly emits charged particles in the solar wind, a stream of protons and electrons flowing outward at speeds exceeding 1 million miles per hour. During solar storms, this emission intensifies dramatically, with billions of tons of high-energy particles erupting from the solar corona in single events. Without magnetic protection, these particles would strike the upper atmosphere directly. Over geological timescales, unshielded solar wind bombardment strips away atmospheric gases. Mars provides a sobering example of this process. The red planet once possessed a thicker atmosphere and liquid water on its surface. After its magnetic field shut down, likely due to core cooling, solar wind gradually eroded the Martian atmosphere, transforming a potentially habitable world into a cold, dry desert. Asterisk, Earth avoided this fate specifically because the SDRDH collision provided extra iron that keeps the core hot and the geodynamo operating. The magnetic field deflects most solar wind particles around the planet, channeling them toward the poles where they create auroras instead of stripping away atmospheric gases. This protection has operated continuously since the collision, preserving the atmospheric conditions necessary for life. Asterisk, the impact delivered another gift that would prove essential for biological evolution. The massive debris field created by the collision spread outward from Earth, with the densest concentration of material orbiting at distances of several Earth radii. Over thousands of years, this debris coalesced through gravitational attraction, forming a large natural satellite. Asterisk, the Moon's presence stabilizes Earth's axial tilt, the angle between the planet's rotational axis and its orbital plane. Without this stabilization, gravitational interactions with Jupiter and other planets would cause Earth's axial tilt to vary chaotically over periods of tens of thousands of years. Such variations would produce extreme climate fluctuations, with ice ages and hothouse conditions alternating unpredictably. Asterisk, stable climate patterns over long timescales allowed life to adapt gradually to environmental conditions rather than facing constant, radical disruptions. The Moon's gravitational pull also creates tidal forces in Earth's oceans, mixing nutrients and creating intertidal zones that may have played crucial roles in the transition of life from sea to land. Additionally, tidal friction gradually slowed Earth's rotation from an initial period of perhaps 5 hours to the current 24-hour day. Asterisk, the slower rotation rate proves beneficial for climate stability and weather patterns. A rapidly rotating planet would experience extreme winds and storms, as atmospheric circulation cells adapted to the high rotational velocity. The gradual slowdown allowed atmospheric patterns to stabilize, creating more hospitable conditions for surface life. Asterisk, the Vega impact occurred during a specific window, when such a collision could be survived and utilized. Earlier, in planetary formation, when Earth was smaller and less gravitationally bound, a similar impact might have completely dispersed the planet, preventing its reformation. Later, after the crust had cooled and life potentially emerged, such an impact would have sterilized the surface completely. Asterisk, the angle and velocity of impact also fell within narrow parameters that allowed partial survival of both bodies' material. A head-on collision at higher velocity would have vaporized both planets almost entirely, with insufficient material remaining in orbit to form a substantial moon. A glancing blow at lower velocity might have failed to mix the cores adequately or to eject enough material to create the moon. Asterisk, the probability of such an ideally configured collision occurring naturally remains extremely low. Most planetary systems likely lack planets with large moons formed through giant impacts. Earth benefited from extraordinary chance, a cosmic accident that happened to occur with precisely the right parameters to enhance rather than destroy future habitability. Asterisk, yet even this catastrophic collision had precursors. The materials that formed both Earth and the air originated from the solar nebula, the disk of gas and dust that surrounded the young sun. The nebula itself required initiation, some triggering event to begin the collapse that would eventually produce planets. The solar system's origin story reaches back to yet another violent event, one occurring beyond the solar system itself. Asterisk, stars form when dense clouds of interstellar gas and dust collapse under their own gravity. However, these clouds can remain stable for millions of years. With internal pressure from thermal motion balancing the inward pull of gravity, something must disturb this equilibrium, providing the initial compression that tips the balance toward collapse. Asterisk, supernova. The explosive deaths of massive stars represent the most powerful events in the galaxy, short of phenomena involving black holes or neutron star collisions. A single supernova releases as much energy in seconds as an ordinary star produces over its entire lifetime, typically billions of years. This energy radiates outward in all directions, as electromagnetic radiation and as kinetic energy carried by ejected material. Asterisk, the shockwave from a supernova travels through interstellar space at speeds exceeding 18,000 miles per second. When this shockwave encounters a molecular cloud, it compresses the gas and dust, locally increasing the density. If the compression exceeds a critical threshold, gravity takes over and the cloud begins to collapse, fragmenting into smaller clumps that each form individual stars. Asterisk, evidence for supernova. Involvement in the solar system's formation has long been circumstantial. The event occurred 4.6 billion years ago, and the supernova remnant has long since dispersed into the interstellar medium. Researchers have searched for telltale isotopic signatures, specific atomic nuclei that form preferentially in supernova explosions and have half-lives short enough that their presence in early solar system materials indicates recent nearby supernova activity. Asterisk, meteorites. Fragments of asteroids that fall to Earth preserve pristine samples of the earliest solar system materials. Unlike Earth rocks, which have been processed through billions of years of geological activity, meteorites retain the chemical and isotopic compositions they possessed when they first condensed from the solar nebula. Analysis of meteorite compositions provides the most direct access to conditions in the infant solar system. Asterisk, researchers at the University of Minnesota conducted detailed studies of meteorite isotopic compositions. Looking for the fingerprints of nucleosynthesis processes that occur during stellar explosions, different types of supernova produce characteristic isotopic patterns based on the nuclear reactions occurring during the explosion. By comparing meteorite compositions with computer simulations of supernova nucleosynthesis, scientists can identify which types of explosions contributed material to the solar nebula. Asterisk, the Minnesota team's simulations modeled supernova from stars with initial masses ranging up to 12 times the sun's mass. These models predicted specific ratios of various isotopes, based on the nuclear physics occurring in the explosion and the subsequent radioactive decays. Comparison with meteorite data revealed matches, indicating that supernova in this mass range indeed contributed to solar system material. Asterisk, in February 2021, additional research provided even more specific evidence. Scientists examined fragments from Vesta, one of the largest asteroids in the main belt between Mars and Jupiter. Vesta formed very early in solar system history, and fragments blasted from its surface by subsequent impacts eventually fell to Earth. As a specific class of meteorites, asterisk analysis of these Vesta fragments revealed isotopic signatures consistent with not one but at least two distinct supernova events. The two supernovae belonged to different categories, suggesting they occurred at different times and locations relative to the forming solar system. This finding indicated that the early solar system received multiple injections of freshly synthesized elements from various stellar sources. Asterisk. One supernova appears to have been a core collapse event, the death of a massive star that ran through its nuclear fuel and collapsed catastrophically, when fusion could no longer support it against gravity. Core collapse supernova typically occur in star-forming regions where massive, short-lived stars are born. The supernova that helped trigger solar system formation likely occurred within the same stellar nursery where the Sun itself was forming. The other supernova belonged to the type Ia category, caused by a white dwarf star in a binary system. White dwarfs are the dense remnants of stars, like the Sun after they exhaust their nuclear fuel. If a white dwarf has a companion star close enough, it can gravitationally strip material from that companion, gradually increasing its own mass. Asterisk, when a white dwarf accumulates enough mass to exceed approximately 1.4 times the Sun's mass, a critical density threshold is reached in its carbon-oxygen core. At this density, carbon fusion ignites explosively throughout the entire star simultaneously, rather than starting in the center and burning outward gradually as in normal stars. The result is a type Ia supernova, which completely destroys the white dwarf. Type Ia supernova produce copious amounts of iron group elements, including the iron that now makes up Earth's core. Core collapse supernova produce a broader range of elements, including the silicon, oxygen, magnesium, and other rock-forming elements that constitute Earth's mantle and crust. The combination of both supernova types provided the full suite of materials necessary to build rocky planets. The researchers hypothesized that these two supernova enriched different regions of the solar nebula. One primarily contributed to the outer solar system, where the gas giants, Jupiter, and Saturn, would eventually form. The other more strongly influenced the inner solar system, where the rocky planets, including Earth, would condense. This spatial variation reflects the geometry of the expanding supernova remnants and their interactions with the collapsing solar nebula. The distance between the solar system's birth cloud and these supernova proved crucial. Too close, and the shockwave energy would have completely dispersed the molecular cloud, preventing star formation entirely. Too far, and insufficient supernova material would reach the cloud to trigger collapse or enrich it with heavy elements. The solar system occupies a narrow Goldilocks zone of distance from its parent supernova. Supernova distances can be estimated from the isotopic abundances of short-lived radioactive nuclei found in early solar system materials. Some isotopes created in supernova decay with half-lives of only a few million years. Their presence in meteorites indicates that supernova material reached the solar nebula within a few half-lives of the explosion, constraining the distance based on the shockwave travel time. These calculations suggest the relevant supernova occurred within a few dozen light-years of the forming solar system. In galactic terms, this represents the immediate neighborhood, consistent with both events occurring in the same star-forming region as the Sun. Modern star-forming regions show similar patterns, with massive stars that will become supernova being born in the same molecular clouds as smaller, longer-lived stars. The elements forged in these supernova and delivered to the solar nebula included everything necessary for rocky planet formation. Silicon and oxygen combined to form silicate minerals that make up Earth's mantle. Iron and nickel sank to form the core. Lighter elements like carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen would later prove essential for life. Though initially, most of these volatile elements were too hot to condense in the inner solar system. The solar nebula began to collapse under its own gravity, with the densest region at the center spinning up as conservation of angular momentum accelerated the rotation. This central concentration would become the Sun, growing through accretion of gas and dust until nuclear fusion ignited in its core. The remaining material flattened into a disk, the protoplanetary disk, extending outward for hundreds of astronomical units. Within this disk, dust grains collided and stuck together through electrostatic forces and weak gravitational attraction. These aggregates grew into pebbles, then boulders, then planetesimals, hundreds of meters across. Gravitational attraction became dominant at this scale, and the planetesimals swept up remaining material efficiently, growing into planetary embryos over timescales of thousands to millions of years. The inner solar system, where Earth would form, was hot. Sunlight and the decay of radioactive elements heated the protoplanetary disk, keeping temperatures well above the boiling point of water and other volatile compounds. Only materials with high condensation temperatures, primarily silicate minerals and metallic iron, could remain solid at these distances from the Sun. The inner planets thus formed as rocky worlds, lacking the massive gas envelopes that characterize Jupiter and Saturn. Earth grew through countless collisions, each impact adding mass and generating tremendous heat. The kinetic energy of infalling material converted to thermal energy upon impact, melting rock and maintaining the young planet in a molten state. Heavier elements, primarily iron and nickel, sank toward the center, while lighter silicates floated upward, establishing the layered structure of core, mantle, and crust that persists today. This early Earth was dry. The high temperatures in the inner solar system meant that water, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and other volatile compounds remained gaseous and were swept outward by solar wind pressure during the early energetic phase of the Sun's life. Any volatiles that did condense into solid form became incorporated into planetesimals that formed farther from the Sun. Beyond the snowline where water ice remains stable, life as it exists on Earth requires liquid water. Carbon-based chemistry, the foundation of terrestrial biology, operates most efficiently in aqueous solution. Additionally, the synthesis of complex, organic molecules benefits from the chemical diversity that volatiles provide. A dry Earth would remain lifeless indefinitely, lacking both the solvent for biochemistry and many of the elements essential for organic chemistry. The volatiles arrived later, delivered through bombardment. As the giant planets formed and migrated, their gravitational influence perturbed the orbits of countless asteroids and comets. Many of these small bodies found themselves on new trajectories that intersected the inner planets. Earth, with its substantial gravity, captured a significant fraction of these objects. 4 billion years ago, Earth endured an intense bombardment, now called the Late Heavy Bombardment. Asteroids and comets rained down continuously for hundreds of millions of years. Individual impacts released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons. The largest impactors excavated craters, hundreds of miles across, melting crustal rock and exposing the mantle beneath. These impacts, particularly comets from the outer solar system, carried substantial quantities of water, ice, and other frozen volatiles. Upon impact, the ice vaporized, adding water vapor and other gases to Earth's atmosphere. Over millions of years, as the bombardment continued, these contributions accumulated. Eventually, enough water had been delivered that oceans began to condense on the cooling surface. The process was not uniformly beneficial. Large impacts generated enough energy to vaporize oceans temporarily, blasting water molecules high into the atmosphere where solar ultraviolet radiation could break them apart. With the light hydrogen atoms escaping to space, each major impact thus represented both delivery and potential loss of volatiles, with the net effect depending on the size, distribution, and timing of the bombardment. Computer simulations of this period suggest that Earth underwent multiple cycles of ocean formation and evaporation. The largest impacts would vaporize existing oceans completely, resetting the accumulation process. Only after the bombardment intensity decreased could stable oceans persist. The timing worked out fortunately, with oceans establishing themselves shortly before the first evidence of life appears in the geological record. The size distribution of impactors proved important. Studies indicate that asteroids between roughly 60 feet and 3,300 feet in diameter contribute more volatiles than they remove. Smaller objects burn up in the atmosphere or explode before reaching the surface, distributing their material as a gentle rain. Larger objects impact with such violence that they excavate deeply and eject material at velocities exceeding escape velocity, causing net loss of atmosphere. Impact velocity also matters. Asteroids orbiting the Sun gain speed as they fall inward due to the Sun's gravitational acceleration, following the same principles that cause comets to move fastest at their closest approach to the Sun. The strength of this acceleration depends on distance, with objects starting from greater distances achieving higher velocities by the time they reach Earth's orbital radius. Earth's position at 1 astronomical unit from the Sun, approximately 93 million miles, places it in a regime where typical impact velocities are energetic but not catastrophically so. Closer to the Sun, higher impact velocities would cause more atmospheric erosion. Farther out, volatile delivery would be less efficient because fewer icy bodies would cross planetary orbits and those that did would impact at lower velocities. This distance also determines how much solar energy Earth receives, affecting surface temperature and the stability of liquid water. The zone where liquid water remains stable on a planet's surface is called the habitable zone, or Goldilocks zone. Earth orbits well within the Sun's habitable zone, at a distance where water exists comfortably in all three phases depending on local conditions. The combination of appropriate distance from the Sun, timely volatile delivery through impacts, and magnetic field protection from solar wind-created conditions, suitable for life's emergence. The stage was set, but life still required initiation, some process to transform simple organic molecules into self-replicating systems capable of evolution. The Hadean Eon, spanning from Earth's formation 4.6 billion years ago to about 4 billion years ago, takes its name from Hades, the Greek underworld. The name reflects the hellish conditions that prevailed during this era. Surface temperatures exceeded 100 degrees Celsius on average, with volcanic regions reaching far higher temperatures. The atmosphere contained little oxygen, instead consisting mainly of water vapor, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and trace amounts of methane and ammonia. Volcanic activity was far more intense than today. The mantle was hotter, driving vigorous convection that brought magma to the surface frequently. Volcanic eruptions occurred almost continuously somewhere on the planet. These eruptions released gases from the interior, contributing to atmosphere formation, but also generated hazardous conditions with toxic fumes and acidic rain. Despite these harsh conditions, evidence suggests life emerged during the Hadean, the oldest confirmed fossils date to approximately 3.5 billion years ago. But chemical signatures in older rocks hint at biological activity, extending back to 3.8 billion years, or potentially earlier. If life indeed arose during the Hadean, it did so in one of the most hostile environments in Earth's history. Japanese researchers in June 2020 investigated whether meteorite impacts could have contributed to life's emergence by synthesizing organic molecules. They created laboratory conditions mimicking the Hadean Earth. mixing carbon dioxide, nitrogen, water, and dissolved iron to represent the early ocean chemistry. Into this mixture, they fired projectiles at 2,000 miles per hour. Simulating meteorite impacts, the impact generated high temperatures and pressures, driving chemical reactions that would not occur under ordinary conditions. Analysis of the post-impact mixture revealed amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. Amino acids are organic molecules containing both an amino group and a carboxyl group attached to a central carbon atom. Life on Earth uses 20 standard amino acids to build the proteins that perform most cellular functions. The experiment demonstrated that impacts, rather than purely destroying potential prebiotic chemistry, could actually generate biologically relevant molecules. The energy released in impacts drives synthesis reactions, creating complex molecules from simpler precursors. This challenges earlier assumptions that impacts would only set back any progress toward life by sterilizing impact sites. However, synthesizing amino acids represents only an early step toward life. Amino acids must link together in specific sequences to form functional proteins. Proteins must fold into precise three-dimensional shapes determined by their amino acid sequences. Multiple different proteins must work together in coordinated systems. And all of this chemistry must be encoded in some form of information storage and retrieval system, which in modern life is DNA and RNA. The gulf between amino acids and living cells is vast. Even the simplest known cells contain hundreds of different proteins, thousands of other molecules, and elaborate membrane structures that maintain separation from the environment while selectively exchanging materials. Understanding how this complexity emerged from simple organic molecules remains one of biology's greatest challenges. Large meteorite impacts may have provided additional assistance beyond molecular synthesis. If an impact is sufficiently energetic, it can penetrate through the crust into the hot mantle below. The impact site becomes a zone where mantle heat and surface water interact, creating hydrothermal systems similar to those found at mid-ocean ridges and volcanic hotspots. Today, modern hydrothermal vents, where hot mineral-rich water emerges from the seafloor, host diverse ecosystems based on chemosynthetic bacteria rather than photosynthesis. These bacteria extract energy from chemical reactions, particularly the oxidation of hydrogen sulfide or methane. Some scientists propose that life may have originated at similar hydrothermal systems in the Hadean Oceans. Hydrothermal vents provide several advantages for prebiotic chemistry. The temperature gradient between hot vent fluids and cold ocean water creates regions with varying conditions, allowing different reactions to occur at different locations. The mineral-rich fluids deliver catalysts, substances that accelerate chemical reactions without being consumed, which could facilitate organic synthesis. Microscopic pores in mineral deposits provide protected spaces where molecules can concentrate and react. Impact-generated hydrothermal systems would have been common during the Late Heavy Bombardment. Each major impact created temporary conditions similar to modern hydrothermal vents. With heat from the impact and the exposed mantle driving water circulation, these systems could persist for thousands to millions of years after the impact as the impact site cooled gradually. The chemistry occurring in these hydrothermal environments appears well suited to organic synthesis. Laboratory experiments simulating hydrothermal conditions have produced amino acids, lipids that can form primitive cell membranes, and even nucleotides. The building blocks of DNA and RNA, the concentration of reactants in small pores accelerates reactions and increases the probability of complex molecule formation. Some researchers propose that life arose in these hydrothermal environments, with the first cells emerging within mineral pores before developing robust membranes that allowed them to exist independently in the open ocean. This scenario provides protection during the vulnerable early stages of life while maintaining access to energy and chemical nutrients from the hydrothermal fluids. The transition from non-living chemistry to living organisms remains poorly understood. Life requires not just complex molecules but systems of molecules that work together cooperatively, reproduce themselves with reasonable fidelity, and evolve through natural selection. The minimal requirements for such a system remain debated, with various researchers proposing different scenarios for life's origin. What seems clear is that the violent conditions of the Hadean, rather than preventing life's emergence, may have been optimal for it. The energy input from impacts, volcanic activity, and ultraviolet radiation provided power to drive chemistry. The rapid changes in environmental conditions created diverse chemical niches where different reactions could occur. The frequent disruptions prevented any one chemical system from dominating, allowing experimentation with various molecular arrangements. Earth emerged from the Hadean as a water-covered world with active plate tectonics, a thick atmosphere, and possibly already home to simple single-celled organisms. The bombardment decreased as the solar system cleared out most of the debris from planet formation. Conditions stabilized. allowing life to gain a foothold and begin its evolutionary diversification. Asterisk, but stability proved temporary. The universe continued to threaten Earth with radiation from space. Energetic particles capable of damaging DNA and potentially causing mass extinctions. Cosmic rays, originating from supernova and other violent astrophysical events, stream through the galaxy constantly. Earth sits in this radiation field, partially protected by its magnetic field but not entirely shielded from the most energetic particles. Asterisk, cosmic rays come in three general categories based on their origin and energy. Solar cosmic rays consist of charged particles, mainly protons and electrons, ejected from the sun during solar flares and coronal mass ejections. These particles have relatively low energies compared to other cosmic ray categories, and Earth's magnetic field deflects most of them harmlessly around the planet. Asterisk, galactic cosmic rays originate from within the Milky Way galaxy, primarily from supernova explosions. When a massive star explodes, the expanding shockwave accelerates particles to tremendous energies, approaching the speed of light. These particles, mainly protons but including heavier atomic nuclei, travel through interstellar space and eventually reach Earth's vicinity. Unlike solar cosmic rays, galactic cosmic rays are energetic enough to penetrate Earth's magnetic field and atmosphere, reaching the surface. Asterisk, the most energetic category consists of ultra-high energy cosmic rays, particles with energies millions of times greater than anything achievable in human-made particle accelerators. The sources of these extremely energetic particles remain uncertain, with candidates including distant, active galactic nuclei powered by supermassive black holes, gamma-ray bursts from colliding neutron stars, or exotic phenomena not yet understood. Cosmic rays pose dangers to living organisms. When high-energy particles strike biological tissue, they ionize atoms along their path, stripping away electrons and leaving behind chemically reactive ions and free radicals. These reactive species damage cellular components, particularly DNA molecules. DNA damage can kill cells outright or cause mutations that might lead to cancer. Asterisk, for life on Earth's surface, the atmosphere provides substantial protection. Cosmic ray particles collide with atmospheric atoms, usually nitrogen or oxygen, high in the stratosphere. These collisions produce cascades of secondary particles, including pions, muons, electrons, and photons. The secondary particles have lower energies than the primary cosmic ray, and many of them decay or get absorbed before reaching the surface. Asterisk, by the time cosmic ray energy reaches Earth's surface, it has been distributed among many lower energy particles. The result is a persistent background radiation field, measurable but not immediately dangerous to most organisms. However, this radiation still causes DNA damage at low rates, contributing to mutation and potentially to evolution. Asterisk, in 2020, researchers at New York and Stanford universities investigated an intriguing puzzle related to cosmic rays and organic chemistry. Many organic molecules exhibit chirality, meaning they exist in two mirror-image forms called enantiomers. These enantiomers have identical chemical formulas and nearly identical chemical properties, but their three-dimensional structures are mirror images of each other, like left and right hands. Asterisk, life on Earth shows a striking preference for specific enantiomers. Amino acids and proteins are almost exclusively left-handed, while sugars in DNA and RNA are right-handed. This homochirality appears essential for life as we know it, because mixing enantiomers prevents the formation of regular structures like protein helices and DNA double helix. Biological systems require uniformity. Asterisk, the origin of biological homochirality remains mysterious. When organic molecules form through ordinary chemistry, both enantiomers appear in equal amounts. A mixture called a racemic mixture. Converting a racemic mixture to homochiral requires some process that preferentially creates or destroys one enantiomer over its mirror image. Many mechanisms have been proposed, but none has gained universal acceptance. Asterisk, the Stanford and New York teams investigated whether cosmic rays might provide the necessary asymmetry. When cosmic rays strike the atmosphere, they create secondary particles including muons. Muons resemble electrons, but are approximately 200 times more massive. They decay within microseconds, but because they travel near light speed, time dilation allows them to reach Earth's surface before decaying. Asterisk, crucially, most muons spin in a particular direction due to the way they're produced in cosmic ray collisions. This spin preference means the muon population is not symmetric. When muons interact with chiral molecules, their spins can affect the two enantiomers differently, potentially causing preferential destruction of one form over the other. Asterisk, computer simulations and experiments suggested that spinning muons interact more strongly with right-handed DNA and RNA molecules compared to left-handed forms. This differential interaction rate means right-handed genetic material would experience more radiation damage, leading to more mutations. While most mutations are harmful, some prove beneficial, providing raw material for natural selection. Asterisk, if both left-handed and right-handed. life forms existed early in Earth's history. Right-handed forms would mutate faster due to enhanced muon interactions. Faster mutation rates mean more evolutionary experimentation. Most experiments would fail, but the occasional success would allow right-handed life to adapt more quickly to environmental challenges. Over time, right-handed life outcompeted left-handed variants, establishing the homochirality observed today. This hypothesis remains speculative and controversial. Alternative explanations for biological homochirality include effects from polarized light, preferential crystallization, or simple chance followed by competitive exclusion. However, the cosmic ray hypothesis illustrates how apparently destructive phenomena, like radiation, can potentially drive biological evolution through their effects on mutation rates. The evolutionary benefits of increased mutation rates have limits. 359 million years ago, Earth may have encountered those limits when cosmic ray intensity increased dramatically, triggering a mass extinction event. The Devonian extinction eliminated approximately 97% of vertebrate species, fundamentally reshaping marine ecosystems. During the Devonian period, oceans hosted diverse fish species, including placoderm, armored fish that grew to enormous sizes. The largest placoderms measured over 30 feet in length, apex predators with bone-crushing jaws. Land plants had colonized the continents, creating forests that harbored early terrestrial animals, including insects, arachnids, and amphibians. This productive biosphere suffered catastrophic losses. Evidence suggests that the extinction unfolded over several pulses, spanning millions of years rather than occurring in a single sudden event. Each pulse eliminated numerous species, with insufficient recovery time between pulses for biodiversity to rebuild. The cumulative effect devastated marine life particularly severely, though terrestrial ecosystems also suffered significant losses. 1. Hypothesis links. The extinction to nearby supernova explosions. A supernova within a few hundred light-years of Earth could bathe the planet in increased cosmic ray flux for thousands of years as the expanding supernova remnant passed through the solar system's neighborhood. The enhanced cosmic ray intensity would have multiple effects on Earth's environment. High-energy cosmic rays. Striking atmospheric molecules can trigger chemical reactions that would not occur under normal conditions. Particularly significant is the conversion of molecular nitrogen into nitrogen dioxide. This reaction occurs when cosmic ray particles ionize nitrogen molecules, creating reactive nitrogen atoms that combine with oxygen. Nitrogen dioxide accumulates in the stratosphere over time. If production rates exceed natural removal rates, nitrogen dioxide reacts with ozone, the three-atom form of oxygen that accumulates naturally in the stratosphere through the action of ultraviolet light on ordinary two-atom oxygen molecules. Ozone absorbs ultraviolet radiation, protecting the surface from this dangerous wavelength range. When nitrogen dioxide reacts with ozone, it converts ozone back to ordinary oxygen, depleting the protective ozone layer. If cosmic ray intensity increases sufficiently, nitrogen dioxide production can overwhelm ozone formation, causing significant ozone depletion. Computer models suggest that a nearby supernova could reduce Earth's ozone layer by 50% or more, allowing intense ultraviolet radiation to reach the surface for thousands of years, until the cosmic ray flux returns to normal and the ozone layer recovers. Ultraviolet radiation damages DNA directly, causing mutations and cell death. Marine plankton, floating near the ocean surface where they photosynthesize, would be particularly vulnerable to increased ultraviolet exposure. These microscopic organisms form the base of the marine food web, and their destruction would cascade upward through the ecosystem, starving larger organisms that depend on them directly or indirectly. Land plants would also suffer from enhanced ultraviolet radiation. While some protective adaptations exist, such as waxy coatings and UV-absorbing compounds in leaves, prolonged exposure to elevated radiation levels would stress plant communities. Reduced plant productivity would affect terrestrial food webs similarly to the marine collapse, eliminating food sources for herbivores and subsequently for predators. The Devonian extinction pattern matches predictions from a supernova-induced ozone depletion scenario. Marine species suffered the highest extinction rates, particularly those living in shallow waters where ultraviolet penetration would be strongest. Deep ocean species fared somewhat better, protected by water depth from surface radiation. Terrestrial organisms also experience losses, though the extinction rates appear lower than for marine life. Plant spores from the extinction interval show evidence of malformation and mutation, consistent with radiation damage. The fossil record indicates that large fish species vanished while smaller species persisted. This size-selective extinction could reflect differential vulnerability to ecosystem disruption, with large predators requiring extensive food webs that collapsed under environmental stress. Recovery from the extinction took millions of years. The surviving species were those capable of sheltering from radiation, living at depth, or possessing efficient DNA repair mechanisms that could cope with elevated mutation rates. These survivors eventually diversified to fill the ecological roles left vacant by extinct species. But the ecosystems that emerged differed fundamentally from those that existed before. Asterisk, if a supernova caused the end-Devonian extinction, the culprit star would have been located within about 65 light-years of Earth at the time of explosion. Any closer, and the cosmic ray flux would have been even more intense, potentially sterilizing the planet entirely. Any farther, and the effects would have been minimal, insufficient to cause major ozone depletion. Despite the devastation, the end-Devonian extinction ultimately proved beneficial for the evolution of terrestrial vertebrates. The extinction preferentially affected large marine predators, reducing competition and predation pressure on smaller fish. These smaller fish populations included the ancestors of tetrapods, four-legged vertebrates that would eventually colonize land and give rise to amphibians, reptiles, mammals, and birds. Asterisk, the post-extinction environment featured reduced competition for resources and numerous vacant ecological niches. Small, adaptable species thrived in these conditions, diversifying rapidly. Within a few million years, tetrapods had made the transition to land, adapting to breathe air and walk on four legs. Without the extinction removing established species and opening opportunities, this transition might have occurred much later or never at all. Asterisk, mass extinctions function as evolutionary reset buttons. They eliminate dominant species that might otherwise persist indefinitely through competitive superiority. The removal of these incumbents allows innovative adaptations to flourish. Adaptations that might have been suppressed through competition in pre-extinction ecosystems. Evolution accelerates in the aftermath as surviving lineages radiate into available niches. Asterisk, the pattern repeated throughout Earth's history. Multiple mass extinctions punctuate the geological record, each followed by an adaptive radiation as life diversified to fill the emptied ecosystems. The most famous extinction event occurred 66 million years ago at the boundary between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods, eliminating the known avian dinosaurs and many other species. Asterisk, 66 million years ago. Earth's climate was warmer than today, with no polar ice caps and tropical conditions extending to high latitudes. Dinosaurs dominated terrestrial ecosystems in forms ranging from massive sauropods weighing dozens of tons to swift, bird-like predators. Pterosaurs, flying reptiles with wingspans reaching over 30 feet, soared through the skies. Marine reptiles, including mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, ruled the oceans. Asterisk, mammals existed but remained small, most species weighing less than 10 pounds. They occupied ecological niches as nocturnal insectivores, avoiding direct competition with dinosaurs through different activity patterns and diets. Evolutionary theory suggests that mammals were constrained to these limited roles by competition with dinosaurs, which had already adapted to fill most terrestrial niches. Asterisk, then the sky fell. An asteroid approximately 6 miles in diameter, traveling at over 40,000 miles per hour, struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear weapons, instantly vaporizing the asteroid and excavating a crater over 110 miles in diameter. Rock melted and flowed like water. A fireball expanded outward at supersonic speed. Asterisk, the impact ejected trillions of tons of pulverized rock into the atmosphere. Some of this material reached escape velocity and left Earth entirely, while most fell back as a deadly rain of superheated debris. As this material re-entered the atmosphere, friction heated it to incandescence. The entire sky glowed brighter than the sun for several hours, radiating enough heat to ignite vegetation worldwide. Asterisk, global firestorms consumed forests and grasslands. Smoke from these fires joined the impact ejecta in the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and plunging Earth into darkness. Photosynthesis became impossible in the gloom. Plants died from lack of light. Herbivores starved when their food sources vanished. Carnivores followed as their prey disappeared. Asterisk, the darkness persisted for months to years, depending on location and the density of atmospheric debris. When sunlight finally returned, it revealed a transformed world. The great dinosaurs were gone. Pterosaurs had vanished from the skies. Marine reptiles no longer prowled the oceans. Approximately 75% of all species on Earth had gone extinct. Asterisk, the extinction pattern showed clear size selectivity. Large animals, requiring substantial food intake to maintain their metabolism, could not survive the prolonged disruption of food chains. Small animals with lower metabolic needs could subsist on limited resources such as seeds, insects, and carrion. Mammals already adapted to surviving on minimal food as small nocturnal creatures possessed the physiological traits needed to endure the catastrophe. Asterisk, in the aftermath, mammals found themselves in a world with greatly reduced competition. The ecological roles formerly filled by dinosaurs stood empty. mammals began to diversify, evolving larger body sizes and adapting to diurnal activity patterns. Within 10 million years, mammals had produced species ranging from whales in the oceans to bats in the air, filling niches that dinosaurs and their reptilian relatives once occupied. Primates emerged during this post-extinction radiation. Early primates resembled modern tree shrews, small arboreal mammals with grasping hands and forward-facing eyes. Adapted for navigating three-dimensional forest environments, these primates would eventually give rise to monkeys, apes, and humans. Without the asteroid impact, mammals might have remained small and nocturnal indefinitely, prevented from diversifying by dinosaur competition. The asteroid impact proved catastrophic for most species, but created opportunities for mammals that ultimately led to human evolution. Humanity exists as a direct consequence of this ancient disaster. Different circumstances, a slightly altered asteroid trajectory that caused it to miss Earth, would have meant no extinction, continued dinosaur dominance, and no evolution of intelligent primates. This realization prompts philosophical reflection on the role of catastrophe in evolution. If disasters had not repeatedly struck Earth, would intelligence have evolved at all? Would life have remained at some stable equilibrium of relatively simple organisms, never developing the complexity seen today? The evidence suggests that disruption drives innovation, that destruction creates opportunities for creation. The asteroid impact affected more than animal evolution. Botanical research in 2020 revealed profound changes in plant communities following the extinction event. Smithsonian researchers examined thousands of fossilized leaves from sites in Colombia, spanning the period before, during, and after the impact. The fossils preserve details of leaf shape, venation patterns, and size that allow identification of plant types. Before the impact, South American tropical forests were dominated by conifers and ferns, plant groups that reproduce through spores or seeds without flowers. These plants had persisted largely unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Having evolved effective strategies for survival and reproduction, the forest canopy was relatively open, with significant light reaching the forest floor. The impact devastated these forests. Ash deposits in the fossil layers marked the extinction event, separating pre-impact from post-impact flora. Above the ash layer, the plant communities changed dramatically. Ferns briefly dominated as pioneer species, quickly colonizing the disturbed landscape. Then flowering plants, angiosperms, began to proliferate and diversify. Flowering plants had existed before the impact, but they were relatively rare components of most ecosystems. The post-impact environment favored their rapid growth rates and efficient reproduction through flowers and animal pollinators. Within a few million years, angiosperms dominated tropical forests worldwide, establishing the pattern seen in modern ecosystems where flowering plants constitute the majority of plant species. This transformation had profound consequences for biodiversity. Flowering plants form complex relationships with animal pollinators, creating coevolutionary partnerships that drive diversification of both plants and their pollinators. The explosion of flowering plant diversity following the extinction created new ecological niches for insects, birds, and mammals. Modern rainforests, the most biodiverse terrestrial ecosystems on Earth, are products of this post-impact angiosperm radiation. The Cretaceous Paleogene impact also enriched soils through the distribution of impact ejecta. The asteroid struck a region rich in sulfur and carbonates, and the impact vaporized these minerals, distributing them globally as the debris settled. These minerals provided nutrients that enhanced soil fertility in many regions, particularly benefiting the fast-growing flowering plants that could exploit the enriched conditions. Current forests, including the Amazon rainforest, represent the descendants of these post-impact plant communities. The Amazon hosts over 80,000 plant species, more than 400 billion individual trees, and provides habitat for approximately 10% of all species on Earth. This biodiversity traces its origins to the ecological restructuring that followed the asteroid impact, an event that initially destroyed the existing ecosystems but ultimately generated far greater diversity. The impact that ended the age of dinosaurs was not unique. Earth's geological record contains evidence of multiple large impact events throughout the planet's history. Impacts have been frequent enough to significantly influence the trajectory of evolution, yet rare enough that life has had time to recover and diversify between events. The timing represents another example of Earth's remarkable luck in balancing destruction and creation. Impact. Frequency depends on the population of asteroids and comets on Earth-crossing orbits. This population has varied over geological time as gravitational perturbations from Jupiter and other planets push objects into the inner solar system. Currently, astronomers track thousands of near-Earth asteroids, calculating their orbits to identify potential future impact threats. Asterisk, statistical analysis suggests that civilization-ending impacts occur on average every few tens of millions of years. Smaller but still devastating regional impacts happen more frequently, perhaps every few 100,000 years. Tunguska-scale explosions, which could destroy a city, occur roughly once per century. Minor meteors that cause no ground damage but produce impressive fireballs happen daily. Asterisk, this impact rate appears optimal for life's evolution. More frequent large impacts would prevent complex ecosystems from developing, constantly resetting evolution to simple organisms. Less frequent impacts would reduce the evolutionary pressures that drive innovation and adaptation. Earth's position in the solar system, combined with Jupiter's gravitational influence on the asteroid belt, produces an impact rate that challenges life without destroying it entirely. Asterisk, future impacts remain inevitable. Multiple asteroids currently known to astronomers will pass close to Earth in coming decades and centuries. Most will miss harmlessly, but orbital uncertainties mean impact probabilities for some objects remain non-zero. Humanity now possesses technology to potentially deflect dangerous asteroids if detected sufficiently early, though the capabilities remain untested against real threats. Asterisk, the prospect of another mass extinction raises questions about humanity's long-term survival and the future of Earth's biosphere. Would extinction of humans create opportunities for other species to evolve intelligence? What forms might post-human life take? The answer depends on which species survive the extinction and the environmental conditions afterward. Asterisk, mammals survived the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction through small body size, diverse diets, and adaptations for surviving harsh conditions. Modern mammals possess these traits, plus additional capabilities developed over 66 million years of evolution. Rodents, in particular, show remarkable adaptability and might thrive in post-impact conditions, potentially giving rise to new intelligent species over tens of millions of years. Asterisk, alternatively, birds, the living descendants of dinosaurs, might reclaim their ancestors' former dominance. Some bird species show surprising cognitive abilities, with crows and parrots demonstrating problem-solving skills comparable to primates in certain domains. An extinction event that removed humans and most mammals could allow birds to evolve larger brains and eventually develop their own form of intelligence. Asterisk, or perhaps intelligence as humans experience it represents a unique accident, unlikely to be repeated. The specific sequence of events leading to human intelligence required numerous improbable circumstances. Primate evolution in trees, favoring grasping hands and binocular vision. Environmental changes driving adaptation to terrestrial life. Social living, creating pressure for communication and cooperation. And climate variability selecting for adaptability and planning. Repeating this sequence seems unlikely. Asterisk, the development of human technology introduces unprecedented capabilities and risks. For the first time in Earth's history, one species can consciously affect global environments at scales comparable to asteroid impacts or supervolcano eruptions. Climate change driven by greenhouse gas emissions represents one such global impact, modifying atmospheric composition and triggering changes in weather patterns, sea level, and ecosystems. Asterisk, nuclear weapons provide another example of catastrophic technological capability. The global nuclear arsenal contains sufficient explosive power to devastate civilization and potentially trigger nuclear winter scenarios resembling the aftermath of the Cretaceous-Paleogene impact. Unlike natural disasters, these technological threats are entirely under human control, capable of being prevented through appropriate choices. Asterisk, the question becomes whether humanity can survive long enough to become a mature species, capable of managing these powers responsibly, or whether technological civilization carries inherent instabilities that lead to self-destruction within a few centuries of its emergence. This question has profound implications for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, as it suggests that technological species might commonly destroy themselves before achieving interstellar capabilities. Asterisk, looking at Earth's history provides both hope and caution. Life has proven remarkably resilient, surviving multiple mass extinctions and countless smaller disasters over 4 billion years. The biosphere has always recovered, often emerging more diverse and complex than before. This resilience suggests that even if humanity destroys itself, life will persist and continue evolving. Asterisk, however, recovery takes millions of years, and there is no guarantee that intelligence will evolve again. Humanity may represent a unique experiment that, if it fails, will not be repeated on Earth. The universe might contain countless planets where life evolved but never developed technology, their biospheres remaining at the level of microbial mats or simple multicellular organisms indefinitely. Asterisk, the search for life on other worlds has intensified in recent decades as technology enables detection of planets orbiting distant stars. Thousands of exoplanets have been discovered, with many located in the habitable zones of their stars where liquid water could exist on planetary surfaces. The existence of so many potentially habitable worlds suggests that life might be common throughout the galaxy. Asterisk, but if life is common, where is everybody? This question, known as the Fermi paradox, asks why humanity has not detected any signals from extraterrestrial civilizations despite searching for decades with increasingly sensitive instruments. One possible answer involves the role of disasters in evolution. Perhaps Earth's specific sequence of catastrophes represents an unusual case that favored complex life's development. Asterisk, other planetary systems might experience too many disasters, preventing life from gaining a foothold before the next impact or radiation event sterilizes the surface. Or they might experience too few disasters, leaving life stuck in evolutionary stasis without the disruptions that drive innovation. Earth might occupy a narrow Goldilocks zone, not just in terms of distance from its star, but also in terms of disaster frequency and type. Asterisk, the specific disasters Earth experienced appear optimal for driving evolution toward complexity. The AVA impact gave Earth its moon and magnetic field, creating stable conditions for life's emergence. Supernova enriched the solar nebula with heavy elements and triggered its collapse, building planets with the materials necessary for life. Asteroid and comet impacts delivered volatiles and potentially sparked the first life. Cosmic rays drove molecular evolution through enhanced mutation rates. Mass extinctions cleared space for new forms to emerge. Asterisk. Each disaster could have destroyed Earth's biosphere entirely, but instead contributed to its development. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs might have been slightly larger, excavating deeper into the crust and triggering massive volcanic eruptions that would have extended the darkness for years instead of months. The Vega impact might have struck head-on at higher velocity, vaporizing Earth completely. Nearby supernova might have exploded closer, delivering lethal radiation doses. Asterisk, the margin between survival and annihilation was razor-thin at multiple points in Earth's history. Luck played an enormous role, with countless factors aligning favorably more often than probability suggests they should. This observation leads to two possible conclusions. Either Earth is extraordinarily fortunate, occupying one end of an extreme statistical distribution, or the universe contains mechanisms or principles that favor the emergence of life more strongly than current understanding recognizes. Asterisk, the anthropic principle offers one perspective on this question. This principle notes that observers can only exist in universes capable of producing observers, no matter how improbable the specific sequence of events leading to human existence. From the human perspective, that sequence must have occurred because humans exist to contemplate it. All the disasters and lucky breaks were necessary prerequisites for asking the questions. This reasoning provides little comfort when contemplating the future. Past luck does not guarantee future survival. Earth remains vulnerable to all the same threats that shaped its past: asteroid impacts, cosmic radiation, solar storms, supervolcanoes, and now technological self-destruction. The probability that civilization survives the next million years is far from certain. Asterisk, yet the same history that demonstrates Earth's vulnerability also reveals life's resilience and creativity. Every disaster that failed to destroy life entirely instead created opportunities for innovation. Species evolved adaptations to survive and thrive in conditions that would have killed their ancestors. Intelligence emerged as one such adaptation, enabling humans to understand their environment and potentially to control threats that would have been inevitable in earlier eras. Asterisk, whether this intelligence proves sufficient to ensure long-term survival remains the great unanswered question of human existence. Can a species that evolved through disasters learn to prevent them? Can beings shaped by catastrophe create stable conditions that last for geological times? The answer will determine not only humanity's fate, but also whether Earth's experiment in building complexity continues forward or ends with the species that finally understood the process that created them. Asterisk, the universe operates according to physical laws that inherently generate both creative and destructive phenomena. Stars form, live, and die, with their deaths triggering formation of new stars from the enriched debris. Planets collide during system formation, sometimes creating moons and magnetic fields essential for life. Impacts continue throughout planetary histories, delivering materials and driving evolution through environmental disruption. Cosmic rays stream through space, damaging DNA while also driving beneficial mutations. Asterisk, this interplay of creation and destruction appears fundamental to how complexity emerges in the universe. Pure stability would prevent change and innovation. Pure chaos would prevent anything from lasting long enough to evolve. The universe exists in a middle ground where structures form and persist long enough to develop complexity, but remain subject to disruptions that prevent evolutionary dead ends. Asterisk, Earth exemplifies this principle at every scale, from the molecular to the planetary. The same cosmic rays that cause cancer also drove the evolution of biological homochirality. The same impacts that caused mass extinctions also delivered water and organic molecules. The same supernova that might have triggered the Devonian extinction also seeded the solar nebula with elements needed for life. Creation and destruction merge into a single process of transformation. Asterisk, this perspective reframes how disasters should be understood. Rather than purely negative events to be feared and avoided, disasters represent transition points where existing orders break down and new possibilities emerge. This does not diminish the suffering that accompanies disasters or suggest that all destruction is beneficial. Many disasters are purely destructive with no redeeming features. But Earth's history demonstrates that some disasters, occurring at specific times with particular parameters, can drive progress toward greater complexity. The challenge for intelligent beings is distinguishing between beneficial disruptions that should be embraced or guided, and destructive events that should be prevented. Not every asteroid impact delivers water. Some just destroy ecosystems. Not every extinction opens niches for adaptive radiation. Some just eliminate diversity. Wisdom involves recognizing which disruptions can be tolerated or even utilized, and which must be resisted. Asterisk, humanity now stands at a threshold where it possesses power over Earth's environment, comparable to geological forces. Climate engineering proposals suggest deliberately modifying atmospheric composition to counteract warming. Asteroid deflection technology could protect Earth from impacts. Genetic engineering enables modification of existing species or creation of entirely new organisms. Each capability comes with risks of unintended consequences that could prove catastrophic. Asterisk, the same intelligence that might save civilization from natural disasters could also trigger artificial ones through recklessness or miscalculation. The history of technology shows repeated instances of innovations causing harm. Alongside benefits, CFCs destroying the ozone layer, pesticides accumulating in food chains, plastics polluting oceans. Large-scale interventions in Earth systems carry proportionally larger risks of catastrophic failure. Asterisk, perhaps the lesson from Earth's history is not that humanity should seek to prevent all disasters, but rather that survival requires accepting measured disruption as part of existence. Attempting to create perfect stability might be as dangerous as courting chaos. The goal should be maintaining conditions where life can continue adapting and evolving, accepting that this process requires occasional upheaval. Asterisk, looking forward across geological times, Earth faces inevitable changes regardless of human actions. The sun gradually brightens as it ages, increasing by roughly 10% every billion years. In approximately 1 billion years, solar luminosity will have increased enough that Earth's oceans evaporate completely, creating a runaway greenhouse effect. In about 5 billion years, the sun will exhaust its hydrogen fuel and swell into a red giant, potentially engulfing Earth entirely. Asterisk, these events lie far in the future, but they establish endpoints for Earth's habitability. If humanity or its descendants survive that long, they will need capabilities for interstellar travel to find new homes before Earth becomes uninhabitable. The challenges of such ventures dwarf anything currently imaginable, requiring technology and social organization far beyond present capabilities. Asterisk, before confronting such distant challenges, humanity must navigate more immediate threats. Climate change requires coordinated global action to prevent warming beyond levels that would trigger catastrophic ecosystem disruption. Asteroid detection and deflection systems need development and testing before potentially dangerous objects are discovered with insufficient warning time. Artificial intelligence development demands careful attention to ensure systems remain beneficial, rather than pose existential risks. Asterisk, each challenge presents opportunities for humanity to demonstrate whether intelligence can successfully manage planetary-scale issues. Success would validate the billion-year evolutionary process that generated technological civilization. Failure would suggest that intelligence, rather than representing a stable endpoint of evolution, might be an unstable phase that species pass through briefly before self-destruction or collapse. Back to simpler forms. Asterisk, Earth's history offers precedent for both outcomes. Many evolutionary innovations proved successful, persisting for hundreds of millions of years across multiple species. Others represented dead ends, experiments that failed and left no descendants. Intelligence might yet prove to be either type of innovation, the ultimate evolutionary success, or just another failed experiment. Asterisk, regardless of humanity's ultimate fate, Earth will continue orbiting the sun for billions of years, hosting whatever life forms persist or evolve. The planet has survived worse catastrophes than anything humans can inflict and recovered to even greater complexity afterward. Life on Earth predates humanity by over 3 billion years, and will almost certainly outlast it by comparable spans. Asterisk, this perspective provides comfort by reducing human importance to appropriate scale, while simultaneously emphasizing humanity's uniqueness as the first species on Earth, capable of understanding its own origins and potentially guiding its future evolution. Humans are simultaneously insignificant in cosmic terms and crucially important as the only beings currently capable of protecting Earth's biosphere from preventable disasters. The responsibility is profound and unprecedented in evolutionary history. For 4 billion years, life on Earth has been subject to forces beyond any organism's control, shaped by disasters that struck without warning and without possibility of prevention. Now, one species possesses knowledge and technology that might enable conscious management of planetary conditions. If wielded wisely, whether wisdom sufficient to match this capability can develop before self-destruction occurs remains uncertain. Human civilization is mere thousands of years old, a fleeting moment in evolutionary times. The traits that enabled survival and success during evolution, tribalism, short-term thinking, aggressive resource competition, poorly suit management of global scale long-term challenges. Yet humans also possess unique capabilities for cooperation, abstract thinking, and learning from history. These traits might enable transcendence of evolutionary limitations, developing social structures and decision-making processes appropriate to the challenges of technological civilization. The outcome depends on choices made in coming decades as humanity either rises to meet its responsibilities or fails to overcome its limitations. Earth's history of catastrophes and recoveries teaches that life finds ways to persist and eventually thrive even after devastating setbacks. This resilience provides hope that whatever happens to humanity, the grand experiment of terrestrial life will continue in some form. New species will evolve to fill vacant niches. Complexity will rebuild itself over millions of years. Intelligence might emerge again, perhaps in forms unrecognizable to human minds. The universe contains hundreds of billions of galaxies, each hosting hundreds of billions of stars, many with planets in their habitable zones. Earth cannot be unique. Other worlds must have experienced their own sequences of creative catastrophes, some leading to life and perhaps intelligence, others remaining barren or trapped at simple stages. The diversity of outcomes enriches the universe with countless experiments in building complexity from chaos. Humanity participates in this cosmic process of creating order from disorder, building complexity through catastrophe. Every person alive represents the end product of 4 billion years of evolutionary innovation driven by disasters both great and small. The atoms in human bodies were forged in supernova explosions. The water in human cells arrived on ancient comets. The genetic code that builds human bodies evolved through countless extinction events and adaptive radiations. Disasters made humanity possible. From chaos came possibility. From destruction came creation. From catastrophe came consciousness capable of understanding its own origins. Earth walked a line between survival and destruction for billions of years, achieving the delicate balance where disasters drove progress without preventing it. Humanity inherits this legacy of creative destruction and faces the challenge of continuing it consciously rather than as passive subjects of cosmic violence. The story continues to unfold, with the ending yet unwritten, whether future chapters chronicle humanity's expansion into space and management of its own evolution, or describe new forms of life emerging from humanity's ruins. Earth's saga of catastrophic creation continues. The universe requires both destruction and creation, both order and chaos, both stability and disruption to generate the complexity that produces beings capable of asking why they exist. That question may have no final answer, but the asking itself represents a triumph of evolution, a vindication of 4 billion years of struggle through disaster after disaster. Humanity exists because Earth survived catastrophes that should have sterilized it completely, but instead provided exactly the right challenges at exactly the right times to drive evolution toward ever greater complexity. The odds against this sequence of events are astronomical, yet here stand humans, pondering their own improbable existence. Perhaps the ultimate lesson from Earth's violent history is that existence itself represents an ongoing negotiation between creation and destruction. With neither dominating completely, the disasters that shaped Earth were neither purely beneficial nor purely destructive but transformative, changing what existed before into something new and often more complex afterward. Embracing this reality of constant transformation might provide the wisdom needed to navigate an uncertain future where change is the only certainty and survival requires accepting measured chaos as the prize of continued evolution toward whatever forms life will eventually take.